Cities under colonial rule. This video is brought to you by Unacademy in association with GyanCentral.com. Having covered what happened to the countryside, the rural side of India under the colonial rule, we'll now turn to cities. We have seen how life in the countryside changed after the establishment of British power. What happened to the cities during the same period will depend on the kind of town or cities we are discussing. Now, the history of a temple town like Madurai will not be the same as that of a manufacturing town like Dhaka or a port like Surat, or towns that simultaneously served many different functions. Now, in most parts of the Western world, modern cities emerged with industrialization. In Britain, industrial cities like Leeds and Manchester grew rapidly in the 19th and 20th centuries, as more and more people sought jobs, housing, and other facilities in these places. However, unlike Western European cities, Indian cities did not expand as rapidly in the 19th century. Why was this so? So, what happened in the late 18th century? In the late 18th century, Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras rose as three presidencies under colonial rule. These three emerged as the presidency cities. Now, for administrative purposes, India was divided into these three presidencies. How did this develop? Well, this was developed from the East India Company's factories or trading posts at Surat, Madras, and Calcutta. So now the British government decided to make Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta as the leading cities or the presidency cities in India. So they became the centers of British power in different regions of India. At the same time, a host of smaller cities declined. Now, many towns manufacturing specialized goods declined due to a drop in the demand for what they produced. Now, all trading centers and ports could not survive when the flow of trade moved to new centers. Similarly, earlier centers of regional power collapsed, new centers of administration emerged. Now, this picture right here is a view of Machilipatnam in 1672. Machilipatnam developed as an important port town in the 17th century, but its importance declined by the late 18th century as trade shifted to the new British ports of Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta. Now, this process is often called as deurbanization. So, cities such as Machilipatnam, Surat, Serangipatam, and other such cities were deurbanized during the 19th century. By the early 20th century, only 11% of Indians were living in cities. In fact, the historic imperial city of Delhi became a dusty provincial town in the 19th century before it was rebuilt as the capital of British India after 1912. Now let us look at the story of Delhi to see what happened to it under the colonial rule. So most of us know Delhi as the capital of modern India. But did you also know that it has been a capital for more than 1,000 years? Although with some gaps, but 1,000 years. Now as many as 14 capital cities were founded in a small area of about 60 square miles on the left bank of river Jamuna. In fact, till today, the remains of all other capitals may be seen on a visit to the modern city-state of Delhi. Out of these 14 capital cities, the most important are the capital cities built between the 12th and the 17th centuries. Now, the most splendid capital of all was built by Shah Jahan. Now, Shah Jahanabad was begun in 1639 and consisted of a fort palace complex and the city adjoining it. So Lal Killa, or the Red Fort as it is known, made of red sandstone, contained the palace complex. This palace complex was the focal point of the whole design. To the west of this palace complex lay the entire city with 14 gates. So the city was walled with 14 gates, and the main streets of Chandni Chowk and Faiz Bazaar were broad enough for royal processions to pass. Chandni Chowk was one of the busiest markets of those times, and it was designed by Shah Jahan's own daughter. A canal ran down the center of Chandni Chowk. This was designed because this canal helped reflect moonlight on the Chandni Chowk. Apart from that, set amidst the densely packed mohallas and several dozen bazaars, the Jama Masjid was amongst the largest and grandest mosques in India. There was no place higher than this mosque within the city then. Delhi during Shah Jahan's time was also an important center for Sufi culture, and hence it had a lot of dargahs, khanqahs, idgahs. Now, for those of you who are not aware, a dargah is a tomb of a Sufi saint. Now, a khanqah is a Sufi lodge, often used as a rest house for travelers and a place where people come to discuss spiritual matters. Idgah is an open prayer place of Muslims, primarily meant for Eid prayers. Open squares, winding lanes, quiet streets, and water channels were the pride of Delhi's residents. Yet, even this was no ideal city, and its delights were enjoyed only by some. There were sharp divisions between the rich and the poor. Havelis or mansions were interspersed with far more numerous mud houses of the poor. The colorful world of poetry and dance was usually enjoyed only by men. Furthermore, celebrations and processions often led to serious conflicts. So, how did this city, this Delhi, become the capital of British India? In our next video, we will see the making of New Delhi.